benefits, and loans and grants. So first, on the cash flow, you're all familiar with the direct cash payments that Treasury is currently processing. So that's $1,200 that will be sent to most adult Americans, with an additional $500 for each child. That money will be directly deposited into your bank account using information from your 2018 or 2019 income tax filing. And then checks will be mailed if you don't use that direct deposit feature. There's also unemployment benefits, which we'll get to in a few minutes, that are now available for independent contractors and the self-employed, including realtors. This is unprecedented, and these benefits will be administered by the states. We also have extended paid sick and family leave that extends to self-employed, including realtors, and mortgage forbearance options that allow borrowers of government-backed mortgages to request up to a 360-day payment forbearance. On the tax side, I think you've all seen that tax day has been pushed to July 15th, and that's not just for the filing with an estimated payment, that's for payment as well. There's also a payroll tax delay that allows employers and self-employed individuals to defer employee Social Security tax payments between now and the end of 2020. There's additionally a penalty-free retirement account withdrawal. So you can withdraw up to $100,000 from a retirement account without having to pay that 10% early withdrawal penalty. And those funds are allowed to be contributed up to 3 years after to avoid a tax penalty. And finally, there's an employee retention tax credit. So businesses with fewer than 100 employees that do not take out the SBA loans can qualify for a refundable credit of up to $5,000 for each employee. And employers can be immediately reimbursed by reducing deposits of payroll taxes that have been withheld from employees' wages. On the loans and grants side, which is getting most of the public attention, there's the Economic Injury Disaster Loan Program, which says loan in the name, but it's more of a grant. So that is a fully forgiven advance of up to $10,000 available within 3 days. Sole proprietors, independent contractors, and employers with 500 employees or fewer are eligible, and that can be you can apply for that on SBA's website. And finally, the big one, the Paycheck Protection Program, the forgivable loan designed to cover costs so small businesses can keep their workers on the payroll. We'll get into that in a few minutes, but this is another one that is designed, and I'm sure many of you have already been waiting in line at your local lending institution to get there, so we'll walk through all the steps of that process. So speaking of steps, our next steps is that Congress isn't expected back in Washington until April 20th at the earliest. But congressional leadership and the president have already been working on another iteration of that rescue package, and everyone wants to know what will be in it. So the good news is everyone in Washington is in agreement that more funding is needed for the Paycheck Protection Program. It is already at $350 billion, and it's showing that popularity that it should be extended. The bad news is we have some competing demands coming from the House and Senate as to how much and where the funding goes. But it looks like the CARES 2 package with more funding for the Paycheck Protection Program is moving, and the Senate is hopeful and eager to process this through a unanimous consent or a voice vote as early as this week. And in fact, just a couple hours ago, we got the text of the Senate bill, and it's under 2 pages, simply extending more funding for the Paycheck Protection Program. And we've learned on Capitol Hill that the shorter the bill, the more they mean business. And what makes realtors so effective on the Hill with these asks is that we're not representing a special interest. We're representing everyone's interest. And that means our realtor members, property owners, consumers in the transaction, and the industry and business as a whole. So as we're looking at next steps past the continuation of CARES or CARES 2.0, there are a number of other issues that we are going to be advocating for. One is the remote online notary. So currently 23 states have access to remote online notary, but we're working on a federal minimum standard, and we already have bipartisan legislation introduced in the House and in the Senate, and we're looking for a vehicle where we can attach this. Unfortunately, CARES Act, it was not within the scope of these economic stimulus programs, but there is going to be more action, and we're also working on the state level to get more access to it. We're also pressing Treasury on further tax extensions, including for 1031, like-kind exchange, and for opportunity zones. And finally, we're working with industry partners and regulators on ensuring that much needed forbearance measures don't unintentionally lock up the mortgage marketplace. And we have a team of policy experts who've been working around the clock, as President Vince said, on the implementation of these important brand new programs. So now I'll turn it over to Senior Policy Representative Aaron Stackley to discuss the small business programs.